Jason Holt was not a hero. He wasn't a fighter, a genius, or even particularly good at his job. He was just a junior assistant diplomatic attaché working for the United Terran Alliance. Basically, he filled out forms, fetched coffee, and smiled politely, while more important people made deals so. When he was sent to the Xanthari Empire's capital space station for a Lorisk mining negotiation, he had no idea that within 48 hours, he'd be married to the queen of a powerful alien civilization, and definitely not on purpose, the Xanthari. Station was huge, miles long, and shaped like a glowing blue lotus in space. Alien ships from 100 worlds floated nearby, like insects circling a beautiful, dangerous flower. Inside, everything was polished crystal and humming energy. Jason had never seen anything like it. He adjusted the collar of his itchy Terran uniform, stepped off the shuttle, and immediately tripped on the stairs. Smooth. Holt, he muttered to himself. A tall Xanthari guard with purple skin and silver armor helped him up. She looked at him with a strange expression.
What's that?
Amusement. You are the Terran representative? She asked. Yes, ma'am. Jason Holt, he said, brushing space dust off his pants. I'm just here for the trade agreement. Nothing fancy. She nodded slowly. We shall see. The negotiations were held in a crystal chamber filled with glowing plants and whispering winds. Apparently it was meant to soothe the spirits. Jason felt like he was inside a giant alien spa. Queen Virelia herself sat at the center on a throne made of living vines. She was tall, graceful, with deep blue eyes and dark silver skin. Her presence was powerful, yet calm. She didn't look like someone who smiled often, but she gave Jason a faint one that scared him more than if she'd thrown a sword at his face. She spoke in flawless Terran standard. We welcome you, Jason Holt. Let us discuss trade and tradition. Nodded, trying to act like this was normal. Yes, your majesty. Mining rights, energy exports, and UH cultural cooperation. Of course, the meeting was surprisingly smooth. The Xanthari seemed agreeable. Jason mostly just had to read lines from his datapad. No arguments, threats. He thought he was doing great. Then came the feast. The Xanthari held a celebratory bonding banquet to honor the diplomatic success. Jason didn't understand half the customs, but he was told to just smile, eat the food, not insult anyone. Easy enough. The banquet hall glittered with light from 1,000 floating orbs. Alien music echoed from crystal instruments. Virelia sat beside him, wearing a crown made of bioluminescent petals. Jason tried not to stare. At one point, a priestess brought out a large, ornate goblet filled with glowing green liquid. Jason raised an eyebrow. What's this? It is the cup of harmony, the queen said. A symbol of peaceful union. Our guests must drink first. Jason blinked. Union? The joining of minds and purpose, she said. That sounded ... diplomatic enough. Symbolic? He shrugged, lifted the cup, okay, and drank. It tasted like mint and lightning. The room went completely silent. Jason noticed all the Xanthari had stood. The music had stopped. Virelia rose from her seat, her eyes locked on him. Jason lowered the cup, confused. Did I mess up? The priestess stepped forward and declared, The Terran has accepted the binding cup. As our queen's consort, he shall now stand as one with the Xanthari Empire. Jason blinked again. What? Virelia stared at him, expression unreadable. You have accepted the ceremonial bond. According to ancient law, it is irreversible. We are now ... mated. Jason dropped the goblet, back on the Terran diplomatic ship. Ambassador Brillings turned purple with rage. You what? Jason stood at attention, sweating bullets. I didn't know. I just thought it was a toast or something. You married an alien queen? Do you know what this means? That I get free dinners? It means you're now a political tool. The Terran Council will either have to fully support the Xanthari, or risk intergalactic war by insulting their traditions. Jason sat down heavily, just wanted to talk about rocks. Meanwhile, on Xanthari Prime, things were no less chaotic. The royal advisors were arguing. Some said the queen was wise to accept the Terran, others said it was a mistake. Marrying a human, a species barely a century into deep space?
It was
Madness. But Varelia remained calm. She'd seen something in Jason, not strength exactly, but unpredictability, curiosity, humor. She had ruled alone for 20 cycles. Maybe this accident was destiny, or at least a useful political move. Jason, dressed in ceremonial robes that looked like someone had glued glitter onto a bathrobe, stood beside the queen as the official marriage was broadcast across the stars. He tried to smile for the cameras. His Terran inbox exploded with messages. Some were congratulations. Most were, "What have you done?" 3 days later, Jason found himself living in the royal palace on Zenthari Prima, world of giant glowing trees, floating cities, and gravity-defying waterfalls. He had his own chambers, a dozen alien servants, an AI assistant shaped like a flying jellyfish, and a calendar full of diplomatic meetings he didn't understand. Also, no idea what he was supposed to do now. He sat in his balcony, drinking alien coffee and watching the twin moons rise. "Okay," he muttered. "You married an alien queen by accident? You're living in a space castle? Don't panic." His jellyfish AI beeped. "Your Highness, a delegation from the Forax Dominion requests an audience. Shall I prepare your speech?" Jason groaned. "Do I even have a speech? Standard protocol suggests. Cancel it. I need to figure out how to not start a galactic war before lunch." But things were about to get even worse. Far across the stars, in a cold, dead system, something ancient stirred. A Kravik swarm ship dormant for 1,000 years, awakened. Its minds whispered across the void. The queen has bonded with an outsider. The bloodlines are broken. The stars must burn again. The ship turned toward Zenthari space, and humanity had just been marked for extinction. Jason Holt woke up in a bed that felt like it was made of clouds. Literally, the Zenthari bed in his royal chambers changed shape based on his body and breathing. Every time he turned, it adjusted itself with a soft hum. He had never slept so well, and yet he still felt tired, because today was his 4th day as a royal consort, and he still had no idea what he was doing. He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his eyes. The tall windows of his room opened to a glowing purple forest. Strange birds with crystal feathers flew through the air, singing like wind chimes. His AI assistant, the floating jellyfish named Nell, hovered beside him. "Good morning, Your Highness," Nell said in a cheerful tone. "You have a full schedule today." "Please tell me it includes get unmarried and go home," Jason mumbled. "Negative. But you do have a 10 o'clock meeting with the Royal Science Council, followed by a speech at the Youth Warrior Academy, and then dinner with Queen Varelia." Jason groaned. Royal life was not like the movies. It was meetings, rules, traditions, and more alien food than his stomach could handle, and worst of all, everyone was watching him, wherever Jason walked. Zenthari nobles stared. Some bowed politely, some whispered behind his back. Many didn't like that a human was now part of the royal bloodline, especially one who had married the queen by accident. Jason didn't blame them. He wouldn't believe it either. The only person who seemed calm about all, this was Queen Varelia herself. She was cold but polite, strong but controlled. She had spent years in power, always alone. Now suddenly she had a husband from a race. Barely 100 years into space travel, Jason tried to talk to her during their dinners. But conversations were always formal until today, during the evening meal held in a floating garden. Jason tried a new approach. "So," he said, poking at a glowing slice of fruit, "you ever think about getting a divorce?" Varelia raised an eyebrow. "Divorce does not exist in our law." "Right, forgot. Eternal bond, joined spirits, all that stuff." There was a pause. Then, surprisingly, Varelia gave a tiny smile. "You are different from our kind, Jason Holt. You ask strange questions." Jason shrugged. "Strange is kind of my thing." He took a sip of glowing wine. "Look, Your Majesty, can I be honest?" "You may. I have no idea what I'm doing. I didn't plan this. I'm not ready for this. I'm just a guy from Earth who wanted to talk about rocks." "You are more than that. she said quietly. You see things we do not. You speak without fear. You disobey tradition. Jason frowned. That's not really a compliment where I'm from. In our court, Virelia said, it may be exactly what we need. That night, Jason couldn't sleep, so he went for a walk through the Crystal Palace gardens. The air shimmered with tiny floating lights. Alien creatures slept on high branches, breathing slowly. He found a quiet bench and sat. Then someone spoke behind him. You do not belong here. Jason turned. Tall Xanthari man with sharp armor and gold eyes stood near the shadows. Or, the mark of the High Council. You're right, Jason said. But here I am. You insult our queen. You are a Terran joke. Your presence weakens the Empire. Do you always threaten people at night, or is this special for me? Man stepped forward. Leave now, or accidents will happen. Jason met his eyes. You want to kill me? Go ahead. But you better be ready to explain it to your queen, and the Galactic Council, and every Terran fleet nearby. The man hesitated. Jason continued, voice steady. Maybe a mistake, but I'm her mistake now, so back off. The figure growled softly, then vanished into the dark the next day. Jason visited the Youth Warrior Academy. He was supposed to inspire the next generation of Xanthari fighters, which was hilarious. Since Jason had never even held a real weapon, he stood in front of 50 alien students, all wearing armor and holding practice spears. Jason cleared his throat. Hi, I'm Jason. I'm your queen's consort. Yes, I know, weird. The students stared silently. I'm not a warrior, not a prince. I didn't grow up on Xanthari Prime, but I've survived. Still silence. Then he got an idea. He picked up a training spear, clumsily, awkwardly. Then he tripped and fell flat on his face. The students gasped. Jason sat up, grinning. Lesson 1. Don't take yourself too seriously. To his surprise, they laughed, real loud laughter. And that's how Jason Holt, clumsiest human in space, won the respect of a future generation of alien warriors. That evening, a message arrived. It was from a Terran scout ship at the edge of Xanthari. Space distress signal. Static. Screaming. Then a voice. The Kraviks are coming. They're not raiders. They're a swarm. Jason listened, cold sinking into his stomach. He had read about the Kraviks, a hive-minded species. No emotion, no diplomacy, only expansion and destruction. They had vanished 200 years ago. Now they were back. Queen Virelia called a meeting of her war council. Jason was allowed to watch from the side. The room was filled with Xanthari generals, nobles, and fleet commanders. They argued in hard, poetic phrases. Jason could barely follow. Some said the Kraviks were too far away to be a threat. Others said to strike first. One general suggested retreating and fortifying the core systems. Jason couldn't stay silent. He stood. If they're anything like what we've heard, they won't stop. They don't talk. They don't take prisoners. You need to prepare your people, a noble sneered. And what would a Terran know of war? Jason stepped forward. We know survival. Earth has been through world wars, plagues, invasions even. A robot rebellion, and we're still here. Some of the council murmured. Virelia looked at him thoughtfully. Jason continued. You've got tradition, pride, history. That's good. But you also need change. New thinking, and maybe a few mistakes like me. The room was silent. Then the queen stood. He speaks truth. You prepare for war. Later, as the council left, Virelia stood beside Jason on the palace balcony. The Kraviks will test us. This marriage may have begun by accident, Jason Holt, but it may be the beginning of something greater. Jason looked at the stars. I just wanted to negotiate mining rights. Virelia smiled softly. And now you may help save 2 civilizations. Jason chuckled. No pressure. Above them, a distant star flickered unnaturally. The Kravik swarm was coming, and Jason Holt, human mistake, turned royal consort, was about to become something no one expected a leader. Jason Holt never imagined he would be part of a war council. 4 weeks ago, was just a junior Terran diplomat who spilled coffee on official documents and barely passed his space customs training now. He stood in the war hall of the Zenthari Empire, wearing formal battle robes, standing beside Queen Varelia. While a galaxy-sized threat crept closer every day, he wasn't just a guest anymore. He was a symbol, a bond. And in strangely a voice that others had begun to trust, Jason still didn't fully believe it. The hall buzzed with energy. Generals, scientists, and advisors moved around holographic star maps, showing Zenthari systems and Kravik's movement. Dots spread like spilled ink across the edge of the map. Jason frowned. They've doubled in number since last week. Short Zenthari scientists with glowing tattoos nodded. They consume worlds, then use the matter to build more ships and soldiers. They do not sleep. They do not stop. No one has ever made contact, Jason asked. They do not speak. They transmit only one word: assimilate. Jason shivered. After the meeting, Jason followed Varelia into her private chamber. The walls were made of shimmering crystal that sang softly when touched by light. It was peaceful, one of the few quiet places in the palace. You've grown used to the council, Varelia said, pouring a glowing blue drink. I've grown used to being scared and pretending I'm not, Jason replied. She gave a soft, rare smile. That is the first step to courage. Jason hesitated. Varelia, why haven't you picked another mate, someone strong, someone from your own people? She looked at him, her eyes calm. Because none of them would challenge me like you. Do none of them would trip on the royal carpet and make the nobles laugh during a war briefing? Jason chuckled. That was only one time. Okay, 2 times. You are not what the Empire expected, Jason Holt. But perhaps that is why you are exactly what we need. Jason didn't sleep that night. He kept staring at the stars from his balcony, thinking, if the Kraviks reached the Zenthari core worlds, millions would die. Terran colonies nearby would be next. It would be a slaughter. And all of this, his accidental marriage. His new life would end in fire. He didn't want to be a passive consort anymore. He needed to do something the next morning. Jason called for a special meeting. It wasn't in the war hall. It was in the royal gardens. Everyone, important was their Varelia, the generals. Even the high priestess Jason stood before them in simple robes. I'm not a soldier, he began. I'm not Zenthari. But I know this enemy won't be stopped with tradition or pride. We need something new. The generals looked confused. Jason tapped a small device. A large hologram appeared. A new kind of ship design. Terran engineering with Zenthari. Crystal tech blended into a hybrid. Terran stealth, Zenthari shields. Built for speed, not size. These ships won't win in brute force. But they can scout. Disrupt. Strike deep behind the swarm. Silence followed. Then murmurs. You want to build an experimental fleet? One general asked. Jason nodded. A fleet of mistakes. Fleet. That thinks differently. Fast. Flexible. Creative. He looked at Varelia. Let me lead it. Her eyes narrowed. Would fly into battle yourself. Jason took a deep breath. Yes, if I'm going to be part of this war, I won't hide behind walls. The nobles gasped. The priestess blinked. Even the guards shifted nervously. But Varelia. She nodded. So be it, she said. You shall command the Starshade Initiative. Over the next 10 days, Jason worked harder than ever before. He met with Terran engineers through hololinks. Discussing fusion tech and space frame designs, he trained with Zenthari pilots, crashing more times than he could count. But learning every time, he even helped name the ship's Mistwalker, Echoblade Firebird in his own. Lucky mistake. Why? That name? Asked a young pilot. Jason grinned. Because sometimes the universe makes mistakes on purpose. On the 11th day, the Kravik swarm reached the edge of Zenthari. Space.10 colonies went dark in under 48 hours. Survivors reported black ships that moved like shadows and weapons that melted steel like paper. The main Zenthari fleet prepared for defense. Jason's squad launched on a different mission, behind enemy lines. Their goal: locate the Kravix command node, something that directed the swarm. If they could destroy or disable it, the entire enemy force might collapse, or at least weaken. It was a suicide mission. Jason didn't care. Inside his ship, lucky mistake. Jason stared at the holodash map. His crew was smaller human pilot, a Xanthari technician, and a Terran Xanthari hybrid AI that liked to sing Earth jazz music. Approaching enemy cluster. The AI said. "Hope you've said your prayers." Jason strapped in. "Let's make some history." The first battle began in silence. Starshade ships moved like ghosts dancing through asteroid fields, slipping past Kravix sensor webs. Jason's team struck, fast, taking out power nodes, planting disruptor mines, and jumping away before the enemy could react. The Kravix were powerful, but slow to adapt. Jason realized something important. They expected order, not chaos. And chaos was what humans were great at. After 5 days of hit-and-run attacks, the Starshade team located a strange signal. It wasn't like the other Kravix broadcasts. It pulsed with rhythm like a heartbeat. Jason followed it, deep in a black gas cloud. Hidden behind a dead moon, they found it. The mine ship, a massive structure made of bone, metal, and organic tissue. It glowed with sick red light. This was the command node, center of the swarm. Jason stared in horror. It's alive. The plan was simple. Sneak close, plant fusion charges, and escape. But as they approached, the mine ship sent out a psychic scream. Jason clutched his head. Visions of burning cities, broken planets, and billions of dead faces filled his mind. The Kravix weren't just a threat, they were ancient rage given form. Jason gritted his teeth. He wasn't a warrior, but he was stubborn. "Drop the charges," he shouted. His team moved fast. Inside 10 minutes, the bombs were planted. Then the Kravix woke up. Black ships poured from the gas cloud. Too many? Jason's team fought hard. 1 ship was lost. 2 more took heavy damage. Jason knew they wouldn't make it out unless he stayed behind. He opened a private channel to Virelia. "Listen, if this works, tell the others, tell Earth I didn't mean to be a hero. I just couldn't watch and do nothing." She didn't reply with sadness, only silence. Then softly, "You are not a mistake, Jason Holt." He smiled, tears in his eyes. Then he turned his ship and flew straight toward the mine ship, inside the cockpit. Alarms blared. Jason activated the final trigger. "Come on, lucky mistake." 1 last punch. He fired the charges. Bright white light filled space. The mine ship exploded in a wave of energy so strong, it knocked out systems across 3 sectors. Jason's ship vanished in the blast. For hours, the Xanthari fleet watched as the Kravix faltered. Then scattered. The swarm lost direction. It broke apart, crashed into moons. Others just floated aimless. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Back on Xanthari Prime, a memorial was held. A statue was built in the royal garden. Terran man standing beside a Xanthari queen, holding a cracked goblet. The plaque read, "Sometimes the stars make mistakes, so we don't have to." But far away, in the ruins of the mine ship, a beacon blinked, and deep inside a hidden pod. Jason Holt opened his eyes. He was alive, and the universe was far from done with him. Jason Holt was dead, or at least, that's what the galaxy believed. After he flew his ship into the heart of the Kravix mine ship and triggered the explosion, there was no signal, no escape pod, no message, only silence. For days, the Xanthari Empire mourned. Queen Virelia did not cry. Xanthari royals were taught not to show emotion in public. But behind closed doors, she sat alone in the royal chamber and stared at the stars. "He was a mistake," she whispered. "But he was my mistake." But Jason wasn't dead. He woke up on a cold metal floor, coughing. The air was thick, heavy, smelled like rust and chemicals. His eyes opened slowly, and he saw blinking green lights, humming machines, and strange floating spores. He was inside a pod, a rescue pod. No, it was organic, alien craft. Jason jumped up, panicking. Pain shot through his side. He looked down and saw strange scars on his chest. Not wounds, implants. "Oh no," he muttered. "I've been Kravix-tweaked." He stumbled to a mirror-like surface. His reflection looked mostly normal, but his eyes flickered faintly red. They had tried to convert him, assimilate him, but somehow he resisted. "Guess humans are too stubborn to be brainwashed," he muttered. Then he heard it. A voice inside his head. Not words. Images, emotions, whispers. Jason held his temples. Okay, that's not normal. He wasn't alone. In his mind anymore, Jason explored the strange biomechanical ruin. The mine ship's core had survived the explosion. Burnt walls, melting cables, and dying Kravix creatures littered the halls. But a few systems still worked, including a central hub. He followed the weak signals through tunnels of bone and steel until he reached a chamber. In the center floated a large sphere of liquid light. It pulsed as he approached. Suddenly, the voice in his mind became clear. Not Kravix. Not Zenthari. Something ancient. "You were the first to reject the hive." Jason froze. Who said that? "We are what the Kravix used to be, before they forgot." The sphere showed him a vision long ago. The Kravix were once a peaceful race of collective thinkers. They connected minds to solve problems and share memories. But something corrupted them. A virus of rage. A parasite of logic without compassion. Now, the hive devoured everything. Jason's survival had awakened an echo-fragment of the old Kravixan now. It lived inside him. He had a choice. He could fight it, or he could learn from it. Jason, being Jason, did both for the next few days. He used the wrecked mine ship's systems to send a coded distress beacon. Then he trained. The Kravix Echo helped him control small parts of the hive tech. He could open doors with thought, see heat signatures through walls, even hijack broken drones for repairs. He wasn't turning into a monster. He was becoming a hybrid, half-human, half-hive, but all heart. Meanwhile, far away on Zenthari Prime, the beacon was received. Queen Virelia dropped her royal cup in shock. Jason's genetic signal alive. She immediately summoned a rescue fleet. The generals protested. "Could be a trap. It's worth the risk," she said. One noble sneered. "He is just a Terran. Why risk our own ships?" Virelia's voice turned sharp. "Because he risked everything for us. Because I do not abandon my bondmate." No one argued after that. Back in the wreckage, Jason had company. A survivor. Not Kravix. Not Zentharia. Third race. She was small, reptilian, with silver scales and bright green eyes. Scavenger. Her name was Luma, and she spoke in short, sharp phrases. "You loud?" "Not quiet like Kravix." Jason raised an eyebrow. "And you're not scared of me? You smell broken, but not evil." Fair enough. Luma had been trapped during the Kravix invasion, hiding in ducts and stealing food. She knew parts of the ship Jason didn't. They made a deal. He'd help her escape. She'd help him survive. Together, they navigated deeper into the wreck. Jason used his Kravix interface to bypass security and locate hidden rooms. Luma found energy cells and food packs. They even discovered a working shuttle, half-crushed but fixable. While Jason worked on the engine, Luma looked at him curiously. "You're not full hive, but hive still speaks in you." "Yeah," Jason said. "It's like having a really annoying roommate in my brain. Dangerous, I know. Maybe I can use it to stop them." Luma looked at him seriously. "Or maybe they use you?" Jason didn't reply. Finally, the rescue fleet arrived. Queen Virelia herself led the mission in her golden flagship. The Starflame, as they neared the wreck, Kravix remnants attacked. Broken ships, glitching drones. The Zenthari fighters fought hard, clearing a path. Jason and Luma saw the battle from the shuttle window. "They found us." Jason cheered. Then a warning light blinked. The hive had noticed too. A sleeping swarm hidden beneath the planet's surface began to stir. Jason's eyes flared red for a moment. The echo inside him screamed, "They come. You must run. Dad." Jason had a different idea. "No," he said. "We end it." He activated the shuttle's booster and flew straight toward the swarm tunnels. Luma screamed, "Are you mad?" "Very," Jason shouted. He transmitted a burst signal Zenthari code, attached with Kravik's language, to warn Varelia and call her ships to follow. Inside the tunnels, Jason used his new abilities to disrupt the hive link. The Kravik stumbled. Confused, the Zenthari fleet arrived just in time, firing precision blasts. Destroying the growing swarm before it could rise, it wasn't easy, but it worked. And Jason's gamble saved millions. Once aboard the Starflame, Jason was met with stunned silence. He limped out of the shuttle, covered in dust and high fluid. Luma peeked out behind him. Jason grinned. "Miss me?" Queen Varelia stepped forward. She didn't speak. She just hugged him. No royal formality. No guards. Just two souls. One human. One alien bound by something neither fully understood. Jason whispered, "I'm sorry I scared you." She replied, "You never stop scaring me. Never stop surprising me." Back on Zenthari Prime, Jason was no longer called Accidental Consort. Now they called him something else. The Hivebreaker. But he didn't care about titles. He spent his days recovering, helping rebuild, and working with Zenthari scientists to study the Kravik's echo inside him. Some wanted it removed. Some wanted to weaponize it, Jason. He just wanted to understand it because war wasn't over. It was changing, and he needed to be ready. One night, Jason stood on the palace balcony with Luma beside him, chewing on a fruit core. Varelia joined them. Jason looked up at the stars. "So, what's next?" She replied, "Peace. If we can hold it. And if we can't, then we fight. Together." Jason nodded. "Next time, maybe I won't crash a ship into a giant alien brain." Luma snorted. "Boring."
Ain't they all?
Laughed. For now, they were safe. But something stirred in the deep parts of space. The Kraviks were wounded, not gone, and the galaxy would need all the mistakes, rebels, and unlikely heroes it could get, especially one human who had no idea what he was doing, but kept doing the right thing anyway. Jason Holt stood before the Galactic Assembly. He wore dark armor made from Zenthari crystal and Terran alloys, light but strong, elegant but deadly. His left hand glowed faintly red, still marked by the Kravik's echo that lived inside him. Beside him stood Queen Varelia, dressed in royal robes made from woven starlight. Her crown shimmered with power, her face calm, but her fingers curled tightly around Jason's. They were not just allies. They were partners, bondmates, and now leaders of the final defense of the galaxy. The news had arrived like a shadow. The Kraviks were back, but this time, they weren't just attacking small colonies or border outposts. They were coming for the galactic core. Billions of lives, dozens of species, one chance to stop them. Jason leaned forward as the assembly argued. "Use the planetary shields. We must evacuate. No, we fight to the last being." The shouting grew louder. Jason raised his voice. "Enough." Everyone turned to him. He stood tall, not because he was fearless, but because he was done being afraid. "If we keep arguing, the Kraviks will tear us apart before they even arrive," he said. "We have the tech, the knowledge, the will. What we need is trust." One old senator growled, "And why should we trust you, Terran?" Jason met his eyes. "Because I've been inside the hive. I know how they think. I know how to beat them." Silence. Then Varelia stepped beside him. "He speaks the truth. And he has already done what none of us could survive their mind and come back stronger." The assembly nodded. The war plan was approved. Jason returned to the Starshade. Base, the new fleet had grown dozens of ships from every race. Terran, Zenthari, Avenari. Even the lizard folk from Luma's world. And at the heart of it, the Starforge. A massive space station powered by twin suns. It's designed to forge weapons in hours instead of months. Jason led the final briefing. He pointed to a 3D map of the Kravik swarm. This is not a war of bullets and lasers. This is a war of minds, he said. We hit their new mind core, just like before. But this one is bigger, smarter. It's learning. He tapped the screen again, and it knows me. Luma leaned in from the corner. You plan to bait it, Jason? Smiled. I plan to make it angry. 3 days later, the final battle began. Jason flew at the front in his new ship, Seraph's Edge, faster than any ship ever made, designed for one purpose, to get inside the mine core and destroy it from. Within, Virilia led the main fleet. Luma flew with the sabotage team. Thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, surrounding the massive Kravik swarm that covered an entire sector of space. The swarm moved like a storm shapes, shifting. Ships merging, weapons growing from flesh and steel. Jason's voice came over the cum. This is it, people. No speeches. No tears. Let's give them something they never expected. He paused. Hope. The first wave hit like fire. Explosions, screams, lights blinking. Ships vanishing into black mist. But the Starshade fleet held the line. Jason broke through with a small squadron and raced toward the mind core. It was huge, almost a small planet, surrounded by a dark energy field. As he approached, he felt it. A voice in his head. Not words, but pressure. You are broken. Come home. Jason gritted his teeth. I already have a home. He pushed the ship faster. Missiles chased him. Lasers burned past. His shields dropped to 12%. But he didn't stop. Finally, the Seraph's Edge crashed into the mine core. Jason leaped from the burning cockpit and rolled onto a strange, glowing floor. He was inside. It looked like a brain made of metal and smoke, pulsing walls, floating memory orbs, and at the center a huge red heart-like crystal. The Kravik source. Jason ran toward it, pulling out the fusion core bomb from his back. But then a figure stepped from the shadows. It looked like him, same face, same eyes, but colder, empty. You are the virus, it said. You will be deleted. Jason stared. I'm the cure, buddy. They fought, fists, blades, blasts of energy. Jason was faster, but the clone was stronger. They crashed through memory walls, saw ancient battles and faces from Jason's past, his mother, his first flight, his wedding to Virilia. The clone tried to twist his thoughts, but Jason focused on one thing: love. Not power, not rage. Connection. That was the one thing the Hive never understood. Jason grabbed the fusion bomb and slammed it into the crystal. The clone screamed. The entire mind core shook. Jason activated the countdown. 60 seconds. No. Escape, no regrets. Then suddenly a voice in his cum. Jason. We broke through the shields. Virelia's voice. He smiled. I've got 45 seconds. That's all I need. Luma's voice came next. No hero moves, human. Get out. Jason ran toward the exit hole his team had just created. Walls collapsed. Behind him, the clone chased him, but Jason turned and blasted it with his last weapon, a memory pulse. Images of his life, his laughter, overwhelmed the clone. It faded into dust. Jason dove into the extraction pod. Virelia's ship pulled it out just as the mine core exploded. A light brighter than a sun filled the sky, then silence. Back on the Starflame, Jason opened his eyes. In the medbay, his body ached. His mind buzzed. But he was alive. Virilia sat beside him. I told you not to scare me again, she said. He smiled weakly. I'm trying, really. She took his hand. No words were needed. Outside, the galaxy celebrated. The Kravik swarm collapsed. With the mind core gone, they lost control. Ships crashed. Weapons failed. Peace began to return. Months later, Jason stood in a garden on Zenthari Prime. Children played with small robotic pets. Luma now ran a training academy for young explorers. Jason had no titles anymore. No war council. He was just Jason. He looked up as Virelia joined him. I have news, she said softly. He raised an eyebrow. Good or bad? She placed his hand on her stomach. Surprising, Jason's eyes widened. She nodded. Jason laughed. Paused. Wait, is it going to be half Terran, half Syntheri, and part Hive? Maybe, she said. But whatever it is, it'll be the future. He kissed her forehead. A monument was built at the edge of the galaxy. It showed a man holding hands with a queen. Beneath it, a simple inscription. The mistake that saved us all.